Welcome everyone to a live edition of Legends from the Past and the Future show. I am Armand and I am going solo tonight with none other than the anointed apostle, Dr. Antonio Palmer. Yeah, we're gonna talk about his book tonight. We're gonna talk about a few other things as well, but primarily we're gonna talk about his book. But before we get started, I just want to let everyone know that we are starting two other shows. One will start on the 19th of August. That's right, the 19th of August, we're going to start a health and fitness show with health and fitness guru, Melissa Prize. She's a subject matter expert, and you want to get locked into that show on the 19th because she is awesome. She's amazing. Also, later in the month, maybe late August or maybe September, we're going to come out with another show that's going to pertain to sports, politics, and current events. We have two people right now that's going to be hosts, and we're waiting for a third. But none other than that, we got a hot show tonight, and we're going to bring him on. We're going to bring on none other than the Dr. Apostle Antonio Palmer.
Today's guest, Apostle Antonio M. Palmer, senior pastor, global church leader, and humanitarian. From planting churches to transforming lives across continents, his legacy spans faith, justice, and service. With honors like the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award, Apostle Palmer is a true legend, past, present, and future. Let's dive in.
Dr. Palmer, welcome to the show, sir.
Oh, man, thank you so much, Brother Wallace, for giving me some space on your platform to be able to share some good news on this evening. Thank you so much.
Man, it's a pleasure and an honor just to have you. Let me tell you, I did purchase your book. It's some interesting reading, and but before we get started into the book, this is what we do here on the Legend from the Past and Future show. All right, we go back in the future. We're going to ask you about yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Pastor.
Okay. All right. Well, how far back we want to go?
We're going back. This is the time tunnel now. We're going to go back to where you were born and raised and come forward.
All right. Well, I'm from Hampton, Virginia. I was born in Newport News, was raised in Hampton. I'm a military brat, like they say. I've been around, when my father had tours, if you will. And so we lived all over the place, South Carolina, but we ended back up in the Hampton area when he was stationed at Langley Air Force Base. Played sports all my life. Matter of fact, even when I got older, I was refereeing football and basketball and a little bit of baseball when I had the opportunity for the Boys and Girls Club. But and then of course I was sharing with you a little bit earlier that I met my wonderful wife here in Maryland and decided to stay up here in Maryland. Some of you may meet her a little bit later tonight as well. And we got married back in 1993. She's from Shadyside.
Yeah,
I said I married a country girl that knows how to cook.
Oh yeah, I know that's right now. But
Yes,
it's
indeed.
Hampton, Virginia, and she's from Shadyside.
Yeah.
I tell you, that's awesome. That's
Yes,
awesome.
sir. Yes, sir.
So maybe one of my questions later when we bring her on, was it the cooking? We're gonna dig into it. But before then, now you are presiding over globally or overseeing 81 different churches.
81 churches.
How do you find the time to do that?
We're technically planting the 81st church in Houston later on this year, but we already have things in motion. Well, you talk about time, time management has to be on point for me. But I have great pastors who are in our alliance of churches. Some churches they had planted and they decided, hey, we want to come on with you. They saw my integrity, my leadership, and decided to come on. Other churches we planted across the world. Been doing great work. I know you guys know Senator Henson. Her father and I traveled frequently or annually to Africa. So some of the churches are there in Kenya, Uganda. We have churches in India, Ghana, Liberia, as well as the States. So keeps us busy, but so mostly we do a lot of Zoom calls with the leaders, with the pastors, while anticipating to get there and to be with them. Also with orphanages, we have that we support and support the pastors with their work there throughout Africa. So we're excited, man. It's good. It's a good work. The Lord snatched me up and called me into the ministry. This year is actually my 30th year.
Wow.
I know I don't look that old now. For 30 years, yes, sir. So,
if you can remember, when was it that you actually gave your life to the Lord?
Hey, I can remember like it was yesterday. It was in December of 1989 when I gave my life to the Lord. I was actually in Portsmouth City Jail.
Okay.
He had to meet me because I was cutting up. I'm telling you. So after I got out of I had did like 3 years in the military. Got out. Was on my way to Hampton University. I had got the GI Bill and everything. But then, when I came back home, I, hooked up with my friends who were already in the game, so I said, look, I'm coming out of the military broke, then they want to give me a minimum wage job. You know how it is, and so I said, I got to get me some money, man. I don't want to be here living with mama and them. I need to get my own apartment, get myself set up and so forth, and got in the game. And but the Lord had something different in mind. So when I got popped, man, I had already grew up, going to church, mom dragging me by the earlobe, if you will, getting in the house of the Lord. And little do you know it, when you don't think you're paying attention, a seed is still being planted.
Yes.
So it didn't take me long to know, hey, this ain't for me. and so, I gave my life to the Lord then. Yes. And I always tell the people the story that in the cell block, they're supposed to only hold 9 of us, and it was 19 of us in that cell block. Of course, I was one of the last ones coming in. So they gave me a little small thin mat like this, about this thin. And I had to slide it up underneath a bunk, and that's where I went to sleep at, during that time when I was in the city jail. And then, once I got my sentencing and went into prison for a little bit. Yeah. And but I was doing the Lord's work right there in prison. Amen. Literally, when I knew that I was called, I literally preached in the stead of the chaplain. That's another story in itself. I was an inmate, and he allowed me to preach in his stead.
We're gonna have to get you back so you can talk about that.
Yeah, I got a testimony.
Yes, you do, Pastor. Yes, you do. But before I take you to my next question, I have to give some shout outs. Benjamin. I don't want to mess up that last name, but I think it's Shiner. Welcome to the show. Joyce Rogers, welcome to the show. My number one stunner every week. In fact, she actually was given an honorary Legend from the Past shirt, and that's Ren Delia. I tell you, welcome to the show. Lenny, welcome to the show, my brother. And Silk Sims, Simplify, my brother, always faithful. Now, Pastor, there's only one branch. Which branch did you serve?
The Army. Go Army.
Come on now. Now you heard that, right, Silk?
That's right.
States Army. All right now, Pastor.
Look, my father was Air Force.
Yes.
My brother went into the Marines, and my sister and I decided we're gonna go into the Army.
Yes,
indeed.
Well, I gotta give this shout out because she probably would let me have it if I don't. She's on tonight. My wife, my beautiful wife, Andrea. Welcome to the show, baby. I'll see you later, okay?
My sister's name, by the way, Andrea is my sister's name.
All right. Well, that's a great name.
Yes, sir. There you go.
Hey, so you posted a video earlier today called Intensive. Well, what is that about, Pastor?
Right. Yes, sir. So the intensive is all about the book, When We Were Them, our new groundbreaking book. So when we were then reclaiming the African-American connection with biblical Israel. So many people who have purchased the book have been asking questions, giving comments, and so we put together an intensive course for, it's going to be maybe 3 hours. We're going to get together. It's going to be hybrid, so it can be in person and virtual. And so we're going to discuss the book. I got a PowerPoint presentation that has pictures because I couldn't put, a lot of pictures in, intellectual property, and I ain't want nobody taking my money and all that good stuff. So I was limited in pictures that we can actually take, but on a PowerPoint, I can actually use those as presentations. So we'll see that. We're going to get into a good deep dive discussion about who we are, and find that connection that we have. And I always say the same blood that was running warmly in David's vein and Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and giant slayers, you know what I'm saying? Solomon, kings, that same blood is running warmly in our veins today. How do I know? 8 years of research, Brother Wallace, 8 years of research. And really, it's been 30 years because I've been pastoring for that long. But once the Lord routed me here on this to understand identity and who we are, so that it could be liberating and healing for our people. So whosoever will, let them come.
Okay, so we're going to dive into this book, okay? So what inspired you to write this book?
Yeah, like I said, about 8 years ago, 2017, I called myself doing a Bible study series. Well, actually, it was a Sunday morning series on Blacks in the Bible. That's actually what we called it, Blacks in the Bible. So I was looking from a Hamitic standpoint. The three sons of Noah, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Yeah. And they always would tell us, the narrative was that Ham was the father of all Africans, the father of all Black people. And so I did the study from that perspective, from that approach. But as I was studying and researching, the Lord started giving me discovery and revelation concerning Shem, who he is, and that Ham wasn't the only, he wasn't the progenitor, father of all dark-skinned people. Okay. So, and the four sons of Ham, it lists in the Bible, of course, but also Shem and his sons, and then it goes on. So, but now we have a whole different thing, and how they also were integrated, and how much throughout the Bible you see how Ham and Shem was together. And Japheth was the ones, and I have chapters dealing with Gentile rule because of the prophetic word. And the book is really based off of the premise of that prophetic word in Romans 11 verses 25 through 27, when he tells us that Israel is blind in part until the times of the Gentiles have come to an end, right? And then shall all Israel be saved, okay? And so now we're looking at who was Japheth, okay? Who were the Gentiles? We've been taught that anybody else than a Jew is a Gentile, but that's not how the Bible teaches us. And it tells us plainly in Genesis 10, which is what we call the table of nations. And you see the outskirting of the nations there, and how Japheth and his sons moved up north along the Mediterranean. And there he says, and these are the isles of the Gentiles. It's all in the Bible. And and if you look throughout the Bible, when it was time to call somebody a Cushite or Ethiopian, it says this was an Ethiopian or this is an Egyptian, or Mizraim. But when they talked about the Gentiles, they referenced that they were identifying those of Japheth's descent. Till you come to the times of the Greeks and the Romans, which they preference as Gentiles as well. So when Paul did his missionary ministry, he didn't go. He was called to the Gentiles. He was the apostle of the Gentiles. He didn't go into Africa. He went into Japheth to Europe when he preached to the Gentiles. So now we're seeing that the Bible prophesies about Gentile rule. Okay. And so who are the people now since 1948 that are occupying Israel, Palestine today? Are they really, these are people of Gentile, of European descent. Are they really have any lineage with the Hebrews of the Bible, ancient Israel? And so that's how we get into digging and getting research. And God just led me into a great work, and we were able to finally, and let me say this, we're not even finished. Yeah. Even though it's almost 300 pages or whatever, it's like I got part 2 coming behind this one, because there's so much hidden information that that they hid from us. Yeah. And I've got a picture that I'm going to show everybody of Thomas Jefferson's cousin. That was a slave owner.
Okay.
But they have a marker that when they were freed, that on the marker, it actually said that the slaves were Israelites. Wow. I got a picture. I'm gonna show it to you when we do the intensive. But those are the kind of things that we have forthcoming. Also put that I didn't put in the book. Also put the information about in 1969, where Heinrich, he's actually an Ashkenazi Jew, wrote a memorandum to the president then, and he called, now here's a Jew who called the Igbos of Nigeria the wandering Jews of West Africa. There's something that he knew, that Nixon and Johnson and all of them knew, that we didn't know, as what they called us African American. We've been called African American, Afro American, Negro, blacks. You see what I'm saying? Everything but who we really are.
So I have a question. You have something. I think it's in the introduction where you spoke about labels.
Yeah.
Right. So the labels were all these different names that were given, right? So what is your take or your thought on that?
Yeah. And I think the labels came because they had already tried to erase our identity. Okay.
Yeah.
And so now let me label you as such and such. The label never really fits us, because that's not who we are. So because we are a multiplicity of people, but when you talk about this angle, we have a lot of history that's been shared. Yeah. But now come this discovery that we have now. And I'm not the only one, because as you know, I have combined information from different sources of people who've been talking about this, historians who've been talking about who we are. It's just that now we're more privy to the information now because of modern technology and so forth, that we can readily get it now. Yes. But people have been talking about who we really are, but they've been keeping it from us.
You want to know something that's really so striking with your book, and first of all, the name that you came up with, right? Why did you come up with that name?
I first had, and this is crazy, whatever, but I believe in divine purpose and the Holy Spirit. I originally had the name Israel Shall Be Saved because I was basing it off of Romans chapter 11 when he says all Israel shall be saved. Then the Lord hit me. Fresh revelation said, when we were them.
Wow.
Call it when we were them. Because I want to identify who we were because of the labels that we have now, because they call us African American. Well, let me talk to you about who we were, who we were called when we were in West Africa. And even some tribes in West Africa who called us Judah. There are maps, the cartographers back in the 1700s, and I'll show this in the intensive, have maps that has in West Africa the tribe of Judah. So, I mean, it's powerful, and we always respect our Hamitic tribes, the tribes that are in Africa that had great kingdoms. Yeah. But we were there, and we intermingled with different kingdoms and empires that were great there in Nigeria. President with the boundaries called Nigeria and Ghana and Togo, Benin, and so forth in West Africa. We were there in the midst of them, but yet many of them knew who we were, even there. So and that's the thing that I want to say is that the labels that they put on us does not accurately define who we are. So so now with this discovery, when we were them, let me take you back, and in the book I take you all the way back and bring us back forth here today. There's a word that we say Sankofa, the Sankofa bird. That talks about going back, right, and bringing it forward, right. So, and that's what I did. It was a Sankofa moment. So the Lord allowed me to go back to bring this information forth. So He's allowed me to unearth through His grace, unearth some things that would be healing. I call it identity healing.
Yes, we're gonna get to that right there. I gotta ask you this. I had gotten to chapter 3, and you had asked the question. What I was thinking. What does this have to do with Black history? All right, you have that in the book. I said that it's so prophetic. Tell us, expound a little bit on that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's everything to do with Black history. Now we thank God for the history that we've had, and the different history dealing with what we call before the Mayflower. You know what I mean? Before us, before slavery, before coming over here. There's great history concerning us. Concerning West Africa, even going back further than that. And that's what I did. I went further back, chased the migrations. Went even further back than that, so they wouldn't know exactly where we're from. And listen, genetically, so I have some scientific stuff in here. So genetically, showing through DNA, mitochondria, showing the different markers that we have. That if you took your DNA test or whatever and really traced it back further than West Africa, you'll find out that the E1B1A haplogroup, that we actually have Middle Eastern, so we say Afro-Asiatic blood. So it goes further than West Africa, and that's what we're trying to get the people to here to understand. It's not just us, also in Brazil and areas in the Caribbean, because that they said 12.5 million, but I think it was more. Plus, it doesn't count those who actually died along the way. But hey, here in the Americas is what I call that. Actually, we can trace back to the Middle East.
My God. Well, I have to welcome a few to the show.
Yes.
Arlo Duanis, welcome to the show. And Pastor, welcome. Derek Wright Senior, welcome to the show. Here's a question, right? Well, it's not a question, but it's a statement. and it's from Faye Gaston. Faye, welcome to the show. Can you see that?
Yes, that's my sister, Faye Gaskin.
Yeah, that's my classmate. Well, not my classmate. She came out a year after I did. But this book is so compelling. Talk a little bit about the identity healing.
Yeah, so identity healing is because when you think about us, we talk about we get saved, born again. So we have spiritual, what I call spiritual healing. We have counseling where we can get emotional healing. And, you know, if we ever had diseases or injuries or sickness, we can get physical healing. But we never talk about our identity. Everybody else can trace, the white man can trace himself, whether he's from Norway or Denmark or Scandinavia or England or wherever. But we have been cut off from our identity. So when the Lord gives us information like this is vital, because it's like an awakening to really understand that, hey, this is where I'm from. This is who I am. And not only that, but that book that they're reading concerning Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and David, and Solomon, and even Yeshua himself. That book, this is our book. Okay, and many have been, as the book of Romans said, grafted in to the covenant that God had established with our forefathers. Now I can look at the Bible differently. See what I'm saying? So, and there's coming a time when he says all Israel shall be saved. It's coming after Gentile rule expires. So Gentile, European, white man rule is going to come to an end. Jesus said it and Paul said it. We don't know how it's going to happen. You know, right now I think I got a text that the Ashkenazi Jews that Netanyahu and them bombed, I believe it was Syria or somewhere, and so you know, so some disruptions are happening even right now. Russia fighting against what's the area there? Ukraine.
Yeah.
So oftentimes you see where God throughout the scriptures, when it was time for Israel's deliverance, he'll cause those enemies who had them bound to start fighting among themselves.
Wow.
So there's a time set. I don't know when. I can't tell you when, of course, but there's a time set where Gentile rule is going to come to an end. That's why if you look at Ibrahim Traore over in Burkina Faso, who rejected France and said, you're not going to steal from us anymore. The gold and all that they take to, you know, from Burkina Faso. He says, so we're even in Africa, they're standing up against Gentile rule. So this is happening, and more African countries are joining in. They have an alliance actually now with about 5 countries over there in West Africa. You know, because one president decided we're not going to take this anymore. All of the stripping from us and giving us, chunk change for all the wonderful natural resources that you're making trillions of dollars on. And so the time is up. And so now we're seeing that happening. There's a stirring or shaking, like the Bible says, in the earth. And that which will remain shall remain. And so I'm looking now, but at the same time, Israel shall be awakened to who they are. In the last days, if you will, the Lord is coming back for an oppressed. Deliverance is always for an oppressed people. Where Ashkenazi Jews aren't oppressed. They cry out anti-Semitism, but they aren't oppressed. Who's the people who are oppressed? Those are the kind of people that deliverance will take place, that Shiloh will come, that Zion will come, that the root of Jesse will come.
Would you say that we're living in that time now with this Antichrist in office as president?
So I believe that we're living in end times. However long end time is, I don't know, but it's not the end of time, but it's end times. If you can understand what I'm saying. So there are some factors, some prophetic things that still have to take place. But we're even seeing, say, like how many floods and stuff that has never taken place at that measure before that are taking place. You know, when Jesus said would be wars and rumors of wars and things like that going on in the end time. So we can look at it and sense that there are birthing pains preparing for the coming of the Lord. So I just want to have myself right. Number one, right? And preach the unadulterated word of God so that the people of God can prepare and have their oil in their lamp, like the 5 virgins who had their oil, right? And that's the keeping the main thing. But at the same time, Israel should be awakened. So there are more pastors like myself who are awakening to their truth, and there are some who are not at this particular time. But there's grace for that. So, and we have to continue to unveil and reveal what we know. All right, and we get kickbacks. I get more kickbacks from Black people than I do white people, to be honest with you.
I wonder, why do you think that's the problem? Well, that's the case.
We've been programmed. And you know as well as I know, integration, that period of integration, we were sold a bad check, like Martin Luther King Jr. said, said it was we was written a bad check. And you know, and we see it bouncing because we didn't really get the freedom that we wanted. The system is still doing what it was made to do. So we're sitting here, and what it did to our mindset, and I forget who wrote the book, but it's called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. From centuries of this, in bloodlines, generations, that we have certain traumas, in families and in neighborhoods and communities. I'm talking centuries of this, and now even to this point where we haven't received the adequate healing. So to process in our heart and mind that this is us, that the Bible was talking about, and then how the theological approach that we have received even as Black pastors, most of it comes from white seminary schools. They were the theologians, but now that we're discovering, hold up. There's something different here that you haven't been disclosing to us. Now we're going to be the theologians because the book was written for us. Now we can come from this perspective and show you how you can be grafted in to the covenant that God has given unto us.
Wow. So now, okay, we're going to talk a little bit about the stolen world. Okay, you have a chapter about the stolen world. But before we get there, here's a question for you. What are your thoughts on October 7th?
Well, I always say, and when we go back, it all started way before October the 7th, way before that. Even before 1948, it started because, and I got in there about the Balfour Declaration and how Britain was doing some double dealing. And it was really all about people positioning themselves for the Suez Canal. And because prior to the Suez Canal, you had to go travel around to get to India and so forth. And so people were jockeying for control of that area. Great Britain, in their double dealing, was able to announce or make a promise to the I believe it was in Saudi Arabia, but the Arab countries there, they made promises that if they was to go against Turkey, and then at the same time they were telling the Ashkenaz Zionist movement, they were telling them that we're going to help you get into Palestine. They gave them a couple of options of where they wanted to move. And I'm just saying this in paraphrasing, or in short, or in summary, if you will. And so that double dealing, making promises with them, and then France was making promises as well. And so that's how all the chaos began. And then, especially in 1917, when America got involved because of Woodrow Wilson, and he was blackmailed, is in the book. And I show you exactly how he was blackmailed, and how he consented, and validated that, that America validates, the Jews being over in Palestine. So when things like that happen, and then 1948 happens, this bum rush, if you will, of the land of Palestine, and then trying to take control of that, of course, that's what develops a Hamas. I always say Israel made Hamas. See what I'm saying? And the other, what they may say, terrorists or whatever. Well, in 1957, the president of Egypt, Nasser, said that you came here, you left here black, but you came back white. That's why there'll never be peace here. In other words, we know that you're not from here. And that was in 1957. The president of Egypt said that. This is all public record, by the way. So
Brother Pastor, you are taking us to school, Brother Pastor. That's what I'm talking about. Continue on, sir.
I wholeheartedly disagree with what Israel did on October the 7th.
Yeah.
Because I believe that they created this, and this occupation, how they're controlling, how they have is really apartheid policies and ways that they're doing. Of course, you're going to have people like the ancient Hebrews did. There was revolts against Rome, against the Romans and against the Greeks. There were times of wars, if you will, because of how they were being treated, and I mean, even when we were in slavery, that's why you had your Nat Turners and so forth. And, you had your Maroons and so forth. So it's just the same thing. And it's happening over in Palestine. So I believe that there should have always been some type of negotiation for ceasefires and all that. And they're bombing because they want to take over that area. They're bombing Syria. They're bombing Iran and so forth. And they know they can do it because they got America's backing. And that's a whole big another podcast, if you will.
Yes.
Because if you want to know who runs America, that's a whole nother podcast.
I truly believe that we're headed into a major world war. It's coming about. But now I want you to think about two things: the stolen world, and why was Abraham selected? But before getting there, I want you to see this question. Look at this question right here from Argo Duanis, and let's give her
Argo. Yes, the U.S. is complicit in the genocide, providing funding and what? Absolutely. That's why I said before, if America wasn't involved, Israel wouldn't be doing all this bombing stuff.
Right.
But because they know they have our backing, and we're sending all this funding while we have neighborhoods over here, communities over here, cities over here who need the funding that they're sending over, into wars. Not only that, but did you know that Ukraine? Did you know that Ashkenazi Jews, that there's a great population still of Jews in Ukraine? Even the president is a Jew.
Yeah,
that's a whole nother story. I don't want to get into that because I don't want to get into. That's a whole nother thing. But yeah, absolutely, they're complicit into that.
So here's a question that Argo wanted to ask you, and I put the wrong thing up, but you gave a great comeback to it. But what are your thoughts about the genocide that's being committed in Gaza?
Like I said, I believe that it should have never happened. There should have been some type of negotiation before, and then the UN. Let me even say this: the UN isn't doing anything. And you can tell Netanyahu, we're going to put sanctions on you and things like that. He don't care about that. He's trying to control that land and get all of it. Yes. So the genocide we should have never participated in that. Biden didn't have a strong enough voice to say, we're not going to give you any more funding. You thought Trump was, he playing games like he big, bad, and tough. And he should have ceased it and stopped it. And he acted like he was going to do it the first day of office and all that good stuff. And it's still going on, right? So they're all complicit. And so Gaza, I'm for the Palestinians at this point. For everybody who wants to know, I believe that they have a right to the land, and that those who are in the land right now don't belong there. They absolutely don't belong there. They won't even allow them to do DNA testing.
I'm in total agreement with you.
Netanyahu will not allow Jews, Israeli, in Palestine for them to have DNA tests.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Wow. Well, I got to welcome D. Goodwin to the show. Welcome Miss D. Goodwin to the show. Now,
hey, Miss D.
Brother Pastor, why did God select Abraham?
Well, and I say this is his divine choice. We never know the mind of God. It was his divine choice in choosing Abraham. We don't know. And I put that in the book, but there's a purpose when he chose him, and that he was looking for a holy nation and a royal priesthood. And he decided, to choose Abraham. And when he did that, in his predestination and his foreknowledge, what he did best was establish a covenant that was everlasting with Abraham.
Wow.
So look, so European white man theology, what we call replacement theology, the church says that the church replaced Israel, but it didn't, because God had an eternal covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who is Israel, of course. So that's why throughout time, even when Israel was rebellious, God always had a remnant. He has a remnant now, and it's not those who are in Israel today. All right, so he has those who are like myself, who are preaching this awakening, if you will, and so that when at the time when he says that Gentile times will expire and come to an end, because of the remnant that he has that's preaching that who we are, there's going to be we talk about a great awakening or a great revival. It's going to be a great revival of African Americans who finally realize who they are. That's going to be the revival.
Wow.
It's in us. It's in us. Look at how powerful we are when whether it's sports, whether it's entertainment, whether it's the doctors, whatever field we go into. We're so great at what we do. It's because God put it in it. Romans 11 tells us that gifts and callings are irrevocable. He put it in us. It's in our DNA. And he said this, I'm going to say this. The Lord said in the scriptures, he says, I'm going to make you jealous with the people who never knew who I was.
My God.
So when this awakening comes, people like myself are going to be looking at us like, no, we're supposed to be carrying this word. We are the ones that are responsible. We have the covenant, are the originators of the original benefactors of the covenant. So how can we supposed to get jealous of the fact that there's a replacement theology, that Gentiles are controlling the word of God that God and the promise that God gave us? Then we'll rise up and teach it the right way, so that they offer it to them to be grafted in alongside with us. So back in the 4th century with Constantine, that's how things begin to turn, and it was taken from the hands of the Hebrews. This is a Hebrew Bible. It was taken from the hands of the Hebrews into the hands of the Europeans or the Gentiles, and they began to develop creeds like the Nyine Creed, and begin to develop theological statements and things. And then they did it in strong hand, did it with a strong hand at that, because then there was a there was a council where when they got together at that council, they said, if anybody doesn't believe this way, he will be executed. He would be called a heretic. See what I'm saying? So the Hebrews, we never did that or whatever. You're a heretic if you don't believe the gospel this way or the word of God this way. And then theology began to be developed from a Western mindset. Theology began to be incorporated with Greek philosophy. and it's embedded in all our seminaries and universities and so forth. But now we're getting it back. And we're being able to restructure theology in a more Eastern, if you will, mindset and approach. The Ethiopians know.
You know, brother pastor, I really have considered not having this show tonight because, and you know why.
Yes.
You know, but I am so blessed to have had you on. You know, I really needed this.
Yes, sir.
Really needed this. You know, what was your primary intent for writing this book and getting it out to the people?
Right.
And before you answer that, you know, you have to have more than one class. You know, you got to come back out with another class.
Absolutely.
Are you planning to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the first intensive that we're having in August, and we'll start scheduling out because, like I said, more and more people are purchasing the book. So for those who have purchased and those who you can, when you purchase the class, when you pay for the class, you actually get a book automatically that comes with the class along with the handouts for the class. So we'll be scheduling them out. August is the first one. The book is pretty much still hot off the press. But I've been getting some good news, some good feedback, but also some great questions. And we're going to answer all that with the PowerPoint presentation and dive deep, dive deep. We want our people to be able to understand, and all that get an understanding. So we want everybody to understand what we're writing. It's almost, like I said, this is about 300 pages, just about. So there's a lot of information that's in there. So you may not get everything, but that's why we're doing the classes. And also we have a curriculum that's built behind the book where we will be presenting to, and pray for me, Brother Waller, we'll present to the HBCUs first to be able to say, how can we offer this as a course, for our people, so because it is African-American history, it is religious study. It does have some science-based information that's in it. So it's interdisciplinary book that's being written. So, we're excited about it, man. This is fresh news. But I do want to answer your question. The reason why, what I want people to get from it, the reason why I wrote it. Again, the Lord, when he moved me in this direction, again, I believe that it's all about identity healing. It's about awakening. He said, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge.
Yes.
When God gives us relative truth, it's up to the pastor now to share that truth. All truth is liberating, right? Jesus says, and the truth shall make you free. So this book has truth in it that's been buried. And now that the Lord has allowed me to unearth it, this truth that I have is liberating. It's liberating. So that's the reason why I'm on this trail, if you will, on this path now, because there's been truth that's been hidden from us that can actually liberate us. And so we thank God for all our history that's been shared throughout the years. And this is some new, fresh, vital truth concerning us. And I was sharing with Brother Barron Bell, my dear brother Barron, because he asked a question at the book signing about, are we all African Americans Hebrews? And I said, no. I actually have in the book a percentage that was given based off of our findings, a percentage that was up until 1865, if you will. Okay, so that we are able to offer and to give. Matter of fact, yeah, 1865, because in 1808, of course, when there was an international prohibition against, the traveling with the ships and so forth. And then there was domestic slave trade. It was here in America. I talk about that in the book, and how that inadvertently spread more of Hebrew blood because they were taking those who have documented connection with Hebrews in West Africa. They were taking them and using them for forced breeding. But that's all in the book. I need you to purchase the book to get more. That's it. So our people, are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. Yes, sir. There it is.
Yes. Get the book. Brother Pastor, we're getting close to that time. I'm going to need you to have your wife come down and
came in the room. She in the room. Let me tell you how you can get the book.
Go ahead. Yes.
www.Dr. Antonio Palmer. That's DrAntonioPalmer.com. You can get the book or even sign up for the intensive there. Let me scoot over a little bit. You can sign up. That's my beautiful wife. You can sign up for the intensive. It's all on that website, www.Dr. That stands for Dr. AntonioPalmer.com. Go ahead and get your copy today. I'm telling you, you will be behind it.
Yes. Get your copy today.
Yes, sir.
And Pastor, I am gonna I got to do this, that intensive training. I have to now. You know my situation on the second.
Yes, sir.
So I'm gonna lobby to have you do this with a quick turnaround. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, all my viewers out there, I want you to raise your right hand towards Pastor and say, Pastor, in the next 2 weeks, let's have that class again right after August the 2nd. Amen.
And we have one scheduled already in December in Louisiana. We're going to Baton Rouge. So we got some scheduled. We're going to Atlanta area. Of course, back home. I'm from Hampton, so we're going back home I have a church there as well. So we're going to go there. So we have some scheduled tours, if you will, with the class, with the intensive, but also for, we could do quick turnarounds. I always say, if you got 10 people or more, we can come to where you are and I'll come and teach and we can share and we can ask questions and do the whole thing.
Hallelujah. Well, here's something for you. This is one of your ministerial staffers. He wanted his autograph.
Is that the great Reverend Nolan?
That is it. That is it. But audience, we're gonna have some fun with the pastor and his queen. My first question, Queen. What did you think about the beard?
Oh, I love the beard.
There you go.
Hey, hold up now. When I first started growing the beard, I just had the smaller, flat beard, if you will. When I started growing it out, she didn't like it.
No.
She was like, why are you growing your beard out? You should shave, whatever. Then they had to take a couple of other people to say I looked handsome with it.
Well, at the time he was growing it out long, and I don't like it long. I like it at the length that he has it now.
Yeah, it was a little bit longer than this.
Yes.
You can't cut it now. There's no way. So my questions, what I did, Queen, is I printed out some questions from the Newlywed Game, and I'll go through some of these and maybe pick out something to ask you. First question would be, who is the pickier eater?
He is. He is.
Why so, Pastor?
Because he's very picky about where he wants to go to eat, what restaurant, what kind of food. I'll eat anything. I'm a country girl. You can just take me to a restaurant, I'll find something. But he is very picky.
She said I'm bougie.
Yes, he is. He is.
I think my diet had just really changed over the years. What I told the story about being in prison and things like that, right? And and I when my Muslim brothers over, and they didn't eat pork, I stopped eating pork.
Yeah.
My wife, and I had never told my wife this when we had actually got married, and she cooked this nice meal with pork chops and all this stuff.
Gravy, mashed potatoes.
And I said, I don't eat pork.
Said, I don't eat pork. I said, what?
So we was like, so you can imagine that conversation, right? But over the years, you know, my diet changed. I mainly eat mostly fish. That's my favorite. You know, I eat beef and stuff, you know, every once in a while.
Eat chicken. He doesn't eat
I don't eat chicken. All the stuff I've seen what they did with chicken these days is scary. So I, you know, scale back off of that diet, and you know, so that's why she says I'm a picky, and I am a picky eater. You know, I just like my choice. Look, we pay for, you know, we work hard. We're gonna spend our money on what we desire to have.
I agree. So now, who made the first move? You, pastor, or you, queen?
She did. She told me God told her.
Yes.
That I was her husband. And what did I say to you?
I don't care what God said to you. He ain't speaking to me.
He ain't saying to me. All the while I'm like, oh, she look good, you know, in my mind, I'm like, yeah, you know. So, but you know, I'm trying to be all spiritual. God ain't speak to me yet.
Right.
Oh man. Okay, fill in the blank. We are total opposites when it comes to blank.
Temperature.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Temperature.
In
the house.
Who likes it hot and who likes it cold?
He likes it hot. I like it extremely cold.
Bring on the heat.
He can have heat in the summer. I like it cold.
I went and bought an Ugg blanket. I don't know if you know the Uggs, right? I bought an Ugg blanket, that nice, soft, plush, cushiony blanket or whatever, plush blanket. That's how cold it is. She having freezing. I'm like, you can't turn it on 70. Got it freezing enough. But yeah, we learn to live that way.
Yes.
All right. Well, my last question to you is this. All right. Who gives the better gifts?
Ooh, I would say he does.
Okay.
He does. He's very thoughtful in his gift giving.
He is?
Yes, very thoughtful, very intentional. If I say something, he may hear me say it months ago, but it'll stick with him. And when it's time for a birthday or anniversary or just to give something, he'll give me exactly what he heard me say. So I would say him.
All right. So, Pastor, you sprung your queen, huh?
Smooth operator.
So, I'm going to give both of you a chance to give the last words to the viewers. I want to thank everybody for watching. So we're going to have a good doctor back. We have to have him back because we only scratch the surface. Only if he chooses to come back. You know,
yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll be back.
But you got to do one thing. That intensive training. We got to have it.
We'll coordinate that. We'll coordinate it for you.
That's what I'm talking about. Next week, we have Commander's #1 tailgater on the show. All right. Now, if you want to find out who that is, visit my website. You know, visit the website to stay current with all the upcoming guests and what's going on. In fact, we are going to celebrate my 65th birthday on the 2nd of August.
Happy birthday.
But thank you very much, Queen. Thank you very much. And there it is right there. We're going to celebrate it on the 2nd of August. Also, one other thing, we are closing in on a milestone. So once we hit this milestone, we're going to leave it up to you, our viewers, to decide. What should we do? Should we do a dinner cruise out of Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Annapolis? Should we take a Legends from the Past cruise? Or should we have an event? You let us know what you want to do. And we're going to do it. And before I allow you to give the last parting words, this is from Argo, Uranus. What about the legacy?
Absolutely. If you'll help me coordinate it, Argo, we can make it happen.
That's what I'm talking about. Now, Queen, you first, ladies first. What kind of inspirational or encouraging word would you like to leave for all of our viewers?
I would just say be kind to yourself first and then to others.
All right. All right. There you go. Brother Pastor.
Yes, sir. What makes the world go around is love. We need more of it. God said we first love him with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength, and to love our neighbor as ourselves. If we have that love factor, I think we're gonna be all right.
Amen. Amen. You know, this was great, very encouraging, you know, uplifting. Especially after the loss of my uncle, to have you, you know, to reach your food for the blessing. And we're gonna have to make you part of this show, brother Pat. I may have to be your armor bearer. I don't work something out.
Yes.
But to everyone out there, see you next week. Thank you for joining us tonight. Peace.
Thank you so much.